Hi DC, my name is Sam Adams. I'm a composer. I live in Oakland, California, and I'm coming to you from my studio in downtown Oakland. I've been a resident composer with the CSO for about 3 years now, and they have decided to take one of my pieces on tour with them on a program featuring music by Verdi and Brahms. The piece that I wrote is called Many Words of Love, and the work is a kind of response to a thought experiment, which was how to create a work using only one small fragment of musical material, a kind of found object. There's a really wonderful song that Schubert wrote when he was just about my age, around 30, called Der Lindenbaum, which is in a very famous song cycle called Winterreise, which I'm sure many of you know. And about a quarter of the way through the song are the words, many words of love, inscribed into a tree, a very kind of romantic gesture. But underneath these words it's just this incredibly beautiful music, very simple. It's kind of like a half cadence. But I became obsessed with this little fragment of sound, not actually through listening to Schubert, but through listening to another composer named Carl Stone, who had taken this little fragment of music and stretched it and created a completely different composition out of it. And I found it really interesting that I fell in love not with the original source material, but with someone else's appropriation of the source material. And this actually made me completely reconsider the way in which I relate personally to classical music. I mean, of course I love Schubert and I've been listening to Schubert my whole life, but I thought it was really interesting that that I have this kind of two-pronged relationship with classical music, that so much of it comes from a kind of direct experience of going to concerts and listening to historical recordings. But a lot of it also has to do with experiencing things out of context. So I thought that I would actually write a piece that kind of acknowledges this weird 21st century disposition. And I took the same fragment and I stretched it and I turned it inside out and I smashed it into a million different little pieces. And I created this kind of tile mosaic, which if you zoom in has the Schubert all over the place, but if you zoom out you see a completely different architecture, which is completely my own. And the piece I think has a kind of paradoxical feel to it. It feels both very lyrical like the Schubert, but I think it also feels very fragmented and disjointed and kind of noisy. So I'm really looking forward to hearing this piece. I hope to see you in DC. Thanks for listening.